Chapter 31 Fang Yuan. You're in huge trouble. I've trained hard in basic martial arts for 7 consecutive days, but to think I only managed to endure 2 strikes from Fang Yuan and lost consciousness afterwards. Shame, unforgivable shame, Gu Mo Bei exclaimed, full of anguish and regret. In the family garden, he faced the wooden puppet, unleashing punches and kicks that were resulting in resounding echoes. Suddenly, he heard a laughing voice. Little brother, do you have deep hatred for the puppet? Why the great resentment? Upon hearing this familiar voice, Gu Mo Bei relaxed and stopped his attacks. He turned his head. Sister, you're back. The family council sent me out for an investigation mission which lasted more than 10 days, Gu Mo Yan laughingly replied. She was Mo Bei's blood-related sister, a rank 2 middle-stage Gu master. But soon, her face turned grim, her eyes sharply gazing at Mo Bei. Brother, what's the matter with those bruises on your face? Who bullied you? It's nothing. I accidentally tripped and fell. A hint of panic flashed across Mo Bei's face as he came up with an excuse. He did not wish for his sister to know of such an embarrassing event. The truth of the Mo family's future heir and the family head, Gu Mo Chen's beloved grandson, consecutively knocked out twice in combat. But the fortunate thing was that he wasn't the only unlucky one. The others had suffered as well. Oh, you have to be more careful in that case. As for your combat training, this won't do. You do not have a gu that enhances your defense right now, so use thick towels to cover yourself. This will protect your limbs from getting hurt. Gu Mo Yan instructed before leaving. Hello, young miss. Good morning, young miss. Young miss is back. Your servant greets you, miss. Gu Mo Yan hastily walked with a cold demeanor, and the servants she met on the way bowed and paid respects to her without fail. She walked to the study room. Without any warning, Mo Yan pushed the door and entered through. Inside the room, Gu Mo Chen was practicing his calligraphy art with his back facing her. You're back? Gu Mo Chen asked directly without turning his body. After investigating for half a month, what is the situation with the wolf's den? How did you know it's me, grandfather? Mo Yan gasped, slightly taken aback. HMPH, in the entire family, you're the only person that dares to enter my room without even knocking the door once. Who else can it be besides you, my beloved granddaughter? Gu Mo Chen reprimanded, although his face showed traces of concern and warmth, and he looked at Mo Yan with a smile. Mo Yan pouted. When it comes to doting, you actually adore little brother more. However, since he's the future family head, you are more strict on him so others cannot sense your concern for him. After a while, she asked, Grandfather, little brother was beaten up. I asked him and he lied about the situation, so I had no choice but to ask you. Gu Mo Chen's face turned serious. You have not answered my question. He put down his brush and sat down. Mo Yan reluctantly reported, the wolf's den is almost full, so according to the current rate of breeding speed, although there won't be an outbreak this year, there will definitely be a wolf tide next year at our mountain village. Gu Mo Chen inquired again, generally there's an outbreak every 3 years, so this is no surprise. However, within that horde, how many Thunder Crown wolves are there? Around 3. Gu Mo Chen nodded, feeling assured. The Thunder Crown wolves were the head of the pack, and were the most troublesome to deal with during an outbreak. 3 wasn't a large number since Qingmao Mountain had 3 clan villages. Each village could handle 1 wolf, and the pressure of the outbreak would be greatly reduced. Grandfather, you have not told me about my little brother's matter yet. Mo Yan pursued again. I suppose there's no matter telling you, but he was beaten up. The first time was 7 days ago, and the second time happened today. It happened in front of the school gates, and he was beaten until he sprawled on the ground and fainted on both occasions. Gu Mo Chen laughingly replied. Who has the guts to knock out my little brother? Mo Yan stared, wide-eyed. He's a classmate of Mo Bei called Fang Yuan. He fights really well, Gu Mo Chen sniggered. Gu Mo Yan's eyes grew larger, and she was perplexed as she replied, Grandfather, what are you saying? He is your own blood-related grandson. Gu Mo Chen stared deeply at his granddaughter and spoke meaningfully, Mo Yan my dear, you are a girl so you may not understand. Defeat and humiliation only serve as fuel for improvement. Without failure one can never develop and grow into a true, mature man. Mo Bei was defeated, and that is his own failure. Once he wakes up, he will ask fighting techniques from the teachers. This is a sort of improvement, and this improvement comes from Fang Yuan, who beat him into realization. As his sister, if you really care and want to protect your brother, you should not interfere with his growth. Fang Yuan is just a boy with C-grade talent while Mo Bei has B-grade talent. With us supporting him, he will step over Fang Yuan and drive him into the ground eventually. Leave this opponent to Mo Bei. In a woman's life, she needs a family and a lover. But for a man, a family is not a necessity, yet what he cannot lack is a rival. Do not find trouble with Fang Yuan, do you hear me? This is a matter between the youths. If you get involved, this will be perceived as bullying. Breaking the rules like that will cause our Mo family to be looked down upon. Mo Yan gasped wordlessly, but under Gu Mo Chen's gaze, she finally lowered her head. Yes, grandfather, your granddaughter understands. She staggered out of the study room, but even Gu Mo Chen did not notice, her eyes shined ominously. Grandfather, this is your way of loving your grandson. And I, Mo Yan, have my own methods. Mo Yan's heart already had different plans. Ellipsis. In the inn's dining room, several tables were occupied and people were having dinner, thus the environment was rather lively. One or two waiters served dishes rapidly, traversing between tables. Fang Yuan sat at the table near the windows. He ordered a few dishes and ate while gazing out of the window. Looking out, the sunset looked like fire, slowly burning away. Half of the sun had already set, it longingly gazed at the lands, its afterglow being the sun's reluctance. Far up the mountains, it was already veiled by the seeping nightfall. The streets nearby were gathered full of people who were going home. Some of them were barefooted, some muddy farmers, some of them herb pickers, some hunters holding mountain pheasants, wild boars and other animals, and some were GU masters. They wore a blue uniform, looking clean and spirited, a headband and a waist belt completing their appearance. The belt had a specific function, for rank 1 GU masters it was a blue belt. There was a bronze plate at the front, and the number, 1, could be seen. For rank 2 GU masters, their belt was red, and the steel plate in the middle showed the number, 2. Sitting at the side of the window, Fang Yuan observed that there were 6 to 7 rank 1 GU masters, and they were mostly young men. There was also a rank 2 GU master, a middle-aged man. As for rank 3 GU masters, they were the family elders. And, 4th rank would be the clan head, the lord of a village. Rank 5 GU masters were hardly seen, and in the entire history of the GUU clan, there were only the 1st generation clan head and the 4th generation clan head who had reached this level. Actually, finding out a clan's strength is very simple. Just find a spot in the village, settle down and observe the people for a few hours, see how many rank 1 and rank 2 GU masters there are and you'll be able to see the clan's strength and wealth. Fang Yuan came to a conclusion with his accumulated knowledge of 500 years. Using the GUU village as an example, there were around 20 people walking on the streets, and 6 were GU masters. In these 6, there was a 50% chance of having one rank 2 GU master. With this strength and capital, the GUU clan managed to monopolize one of the best resource locations in Qingmao Mountain. But the mountain was just a small corner in the entire area of the southern border. The GUU clan could only be considered as a middle-low-tier clan. I have only started my cultivation, and with rank 1 initial stage, I do not even have the qualification to roam the southern border. I need at least rank 3 cultivation to be able to further roam the world, Fang Yuan sighed as he consumed his dinner. Qingmao Mountain was too small, it could not contain his ambitions, and he was determined to leave. Haha, GUU Fang Yuan, I have finally found you. At this moment, a middle-aged man laughed deviously as he approached. Fang Yuan turned slightly to see a man with a yellowish skin tone and hanging brows, but he had a huge body size and developed muscles. He strode several steps to Fang Yuan with his arms folded and proudly stared at the youth who was still consuming his dinner, with a hint of hostility. Fang Yuan, you've gotten yourself into huge trouble, do you know that? Ha, you have dared to hit our young master of the Mo family, and now our young miss is here to settle the score with you. The middle-aged man snickered continuously. He constantly stared and sized up Fang Yuan, faintly emitting a threatening aura. This chapter was brought to you by Chibigan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibigan for helping with the translations. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 31. Next. Chapter 32 Making Fun. If a normal person was stared at by this middle-aged man, they would have probably developed fear in their hearts already. However, Fang Yuan lost interest after looking at him for a second and continued focusing on his meal, treating this man as if he were invisible. Who's that guy? He wears the clothing of a family servant, and he is not a GU master. Why would he dare to question young master Fang Yuan? An employee wondered as he hid at the corner of the inn, sensing that the situation may turn ugly. He's like a fox assuming a tiger's ferocity. By using the Mo family as his backing, this servant man dares to clamor at a GU master. If it were any other mortal man, they wouldn't have the guts to do this, someone beside the employee replied in disdain. Even so, as a mere mortal he has the guts to cause a ruckus towards a GU master. Tisk tisk, this kind of experience must feel really great. TCH, you shouldn't think that a GU master is always high and mighty. Young Master Fang Yuan is merely a rank 1 initial stage GU master, and he has just managed to refine his vital GU. If they were to fight now, he may not be the opponent of this muscular and strong mortal. Sigh, let's just hope that when they fight later, they will spare our inn and the furniture. The employees chattered back and forth, but none dared to take a step forward, only staring from a distance. Hey, you still have the mood to continue eating. Seeing as how he did not manage to intimidate or scare Fang Yuan, the muscular middle-aged man had a hint of doubt in his eyes. Do you think I'm lying to you? There are already people reporting to young miss and she will be here shortly. Do not attempt to run away, young lad, because you won't be able to get away. My job here is to make sure you stay put. There will be much suffering for you later. Fang Yuan paid no heed to the man and continued eating his meal. The middle-aged servant frowned as he did not see a hint of panic or shock from Fang Yuan. This made him feel ignored and his pride was severely offended. He had been a servant in the Mo family for over a decade, and he had acquired the trust of his master. Over a long period, he would naturally come to learn about the details of GU masters. Rank 1 GU masters mostly relied on their physical combat skills. In battle, a GU worm's worth was attributed more to its deterrence factor than as a fighting force. He knew especially that for a young GU master like Fang Yuan who had just started cultivating, his physical strength was far inferior when compared to a grown man. If it came down to close combat, he who had trained for many years would gain the upper advantage. At the same time, Fang Yuan had supposedly only refined the Moonlight GU, so at the max, he would only be able to shoot out several moonblades. The middle-aged man was used as a sparring partner from a long time ago, so he knew deeply that if a rank 1 initial stage GU master were to use his primeval essence to unleash the moonblade, the most it could do was cut several palm-sized wounds and cause limited damage if it managed to hit the human body. Additionally, the man had the backing of the Mo family, so when he confronted Fang Yuan he had no fear, and was wholeheartedly trying to show off his worth to his masters so that he could be rewarded and deemed more useful to the family. Young lad, you sure are courageous, huh? The middle-aged man's tone was turning unfriendly as he folded up his sleeves, revealing his well-toned and muscular forearms. His two arms were large and full of scars. The forearms had thick protruding veins and were even thicker than Fang Yuan's legs. The inn employees watched in fear and several customers were already getting up, paying the bills and leaving this land of conflict. Fang Yuan has been found. Suddenly, the door emitted a proud, loud female voice. Mo Yan strode forward in big steps and entered the inn. Behind her were numerous family servants. Her body figure was decent, slightly tall and had the proper curves. But a long face like a horse's, an inherited gene from the Mo bloodline, caused her looks to be greatly affected, and thus she was only a middle upper tier beauty. However, she wore a dark blue uniform, and a red belt, affixed with a square steel plate, tied around her waistline. The steel plate was engraved with a 2. Additionally, she had just returned from after a clan mission, so there was still lingering traces of the hardship that she had just gone through. These added up to create a field of pressure and threat that was emitted to her surroundings. Thus, once she stepped into the inn, the entire place went silent under her aura. Your servant greets you, young miss. The middle-aged man changed his attitude completely upon seeing Mo Yan. He tried to smile charmingly and he bent his body as he walked a few steps and knelt on the floor, greeting Mo Yan. Upon seeing this change in behavior, the workers in the inn could only stare in shock with their mouths wide open. The tall and muscular figure, as opposed to his humble groveling attitude, was a great mismatch and was seemingly amusing. But the employees of the inn did not laugh, as his behavior only greatly showed off Mo Yan's imposing pressure and status. Some of the inn workers could not help but worry for Fang Yuan, as he was their major customer. If something were to happen to him and made him unable to patronize the inn any further, it would be a huge loss. More of them were secretly praying for Fang Yuan to surrender. If a fight really broke out and destroyed the inn's property, that would be worse. Mo Yan did not even take a look at the groveling Gao Wan. Her eyes were fixed on Fang Yuan. She took a few steps forward and demanded in a fierce tone, "So you are Fang Yuan? You seem to be having a good meal. He, have you ever had a knuckle sandwich? I'll give you a taste of it, it might be even more delicious." Even though she said that, Mo Yan did not make a move. Fang Yuan's actions were too calm. It was strange. Did he have any secret backers that were protecting him? But it shouldn't be so, I've checked before coming. This Fang Yuan only has an uncle and aunt that dislike him, while both his parents are deceased, and he even got chased out of the house by his uncle and aunt. In addition, he only has C-rank talent, so how could such a weak young man have any sort of background? Mo Yan thought in her mind. Regardless of this, the situation was still too peculiar. She had to test and probe further. Fang Yuan laughed and squinted at Mo Yan, saying, "Who told you I was Gu Fang Yuan?" Mo Yan was momentarily stunned, then she took a look at Gao Wan. He had just stood up, but upon seeing this he immediately knelt back down with sweat pouring out of his forehead. He stammered and could not give a coherent reply. "Master, your servant, your servant." They had a drawing of Fang Yuan, but they did not know that Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng were twins that looked almost identical. No wonder this young man looked like he had no fear. He is actually Fang Zheng and not Fang Yuan. Mo Yan's servants guessed in their minds. Fang Yuan cannot be compared to Fang Zheng. The former is merely a C-ranked loner with no background. The latter, however, has a ranked talent and was pulled into the clan head's faction at the awakening ceremony, and as long as he grows smoothly, he has a bright future ahead. Mo Yan did not get proper a reply from Gao Wan, causing her to be even more hesitant. At this point, the only ones who knew Fang Yuan's identity were the inn employees. However, they could not afford to offend either party, so they only kept their mouths shut. Fang Yuan was satiated from his meal. He stood up and glanced lightly at Mo Yan. "You want to find Fang Yuan? Come with me, I'll bring you to the school hostel to look for him. If the person in front of me is Fang Zheng, I would not want to offend him. However, even if he is really Fang Yuan, I will follow him closely on this trip, so I have no fear of him impersonating Fang Zheng." In an instant, Mo Yan made up her mind. "All right, I will go together with you to the school hostel. After you." Mo Yan turned her body to make space for Fang Yuan, stretching out her arm and indicating for Fang Yuan to take the lead. Fang Yuan laughed nonchalantly and strode forth. Mo Yan followed closely behind with her servants trailing at the back. So close. They're finally gone. Even if they start fighting, it is none of our inn's business anymore. The employees that were left behind all sighed in relief as they patted their chests. A group of people approached the school hostel. "Halt. Stop right there, the school hostel only allows our clan's GU masters to enter and leave." The two guards at the door stopped Fang Yuan, Mo Yan and her gang. "Insolent. Do you not recognize who I am? How dare you stop me?" Mo Yan stared at the two and screamed. "We dare not," the two guards hurriedly gestured. "Young Miss Mo Yan, this guard holds you in high regards. However, the clan rules are absolute, so how about this? You can bring one servant in. This is the most we can do for you." An elderly guard politely responded. Mo Yan clicked her tongue. Her heart was full of dissatisfaction, yet in the presence of the clan rules, she did not dare to break them. The Mo family was prosperous, and thus they had many enemies. Do not forget that aside from the Mo family branch, there was also the Kai family to contend with. Apart from the Kai family, the clan head's faction also wanted to get a hold on the Mo family. "All of you stay behind. Gao Wan will follow me." Thinking about it, Mo Yan gave her orders. Gao Wan immediately held his chest up high with a look of joy on his face. "Thank you, young miss, for the opportunity. Let's go, Junior." Mo Yan smiled at Fang Yuan with a questioning look. Fang Yuan remained unfazed as he led them in. He reached the dormitory door, opened the lock and pushed the door open. He then took a step into the room and stopped. Within the room, there was nothing extra. It was all simple furniture, and there was no one else. Mo Yan stood at the doorstep, took a look inside and her face turned grim. Junior, you better explain yourself well, there is no one in the room. Fang Yuan smiled faintly, aren't I someone? Mo Yan stared at Fang Yuan, a glint flashing in her eyes as she suddenly seemed to have understood. I am looking for Gu, you, Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan snickered, you know, I never said that I wasn't Gu Fang Yuan. TN, here's a special double chapter release for your pleasure. Happy weekend. The next chapter will come in 2 days as per normal. This chapter was brought to you by Chibigan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibigan for helping with the translations. Donations will be opened up in the next chapter, and I wish you all well. Thanks for all the support so far. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 32. Next. Chapter 33. Chapter 33. Go ahead and scold away. Mo Yan frowned, then her rage burst forth almost instantly as she suddenly understood that she had been fooled by Fang Yuan. You are tremendously brave to even consider lying to me. While speaking, she stretched out her right hand to grab hold of Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan stood firmly on the spot. He raised his head and laughed, Mo Yan, you better think this through. Mo Yan stopped her actions. While she still stood right outside the door, her outstretched hand paused in midair and her face showed a sign of hesitation and resentment. Within the family, there were relevant rules. Students in the dormitories were protected, and any other person would not be allowed to intrude upon the hostel to capture the students. Mo Yan only wished to teach Fang Yuan a lesson and let him bear a taste of suffering. She definitely did not want to risk getting punished for breaking the rules. If it's only me who broke the rules, that would still be fine. However, if this would affect the family and even grandfather's honor, thinking of this, Mo Yan reluctantly withdrew her arm. She looked at Fang Yuan who was inside the house with her bloodshot eyes. If her death stare could be converted into fire, it would burn Fang Yuan to ashes in a second. I never lied to you. I said I would bring you to Fang Yuan, and now you have already found him here. It seems you have something to say to me. Fang Yuan smiled faintly with his arms behind his back, ignoring the pressure of a rank 2 GU master, fearlessly making eye contact with Mo Yan's furious gaze. He was just a step apart from Mo Yan. One stood within the house, and one stayed outside. But this same distance had also become as far as the east was from the west. Oh Fang Yuan, you sure have studied the clan rules well and thoroughly. Mo Yan, suppressing her anger, said with a sinister smile. She added, unfortunately for you, even while relying on the rules, all it will do for you is to stall for time. There is no way you are staying in the dormitories forever. I'll see how long you can stand hiding in there. Fang Yuan laughed refreshingly and looked at Mo Yan with disdain. Then all the more I want to see how long you can disturb me. Ah, it is already late. I have a bed to sleep in, but what about you? If I do not show up for class tomorrow and the elders come to investigate, what do you think I will say? Mo Yan flew into a rage, her fingers pointing at Fang Yuan, barely restraining herself, do you really think I wouldn't dare come in and take you down? Squeak. Fang Yuan opened the doors of the hostel wide open, his lips breaking into a grin, his eyes dark like the abyss and his tone full of confidence as if the situation was within his grasp. He challenged Mo Yan, then show me. Mo Yan calmed down instead upon seeing this. Her eyes squinted as she looked at Fang Yuan and she said, do you think I'd fall for your goading? Fang Yuan shrugged. He had already seen through Mo Yan's personality. If he had closed the door, or even half shut it, Mo Yan had at least a 50% probability of breaking into the house. But when he purposely opened it fully, it had instead made her more wary and calm as a result. Thus there was barely any chance of her forcing her way in anymore. 500 years of experience had already made him fully aware of the human nature and their weaknesses. He grandly turned around, exposing his back fully to Mo Yan. If Mo Yan struck now, she would definitely be able to capture him in one swift action. However, Mo Yan stayed still outside the door as if there was an invisible mountain blocking her way. Even after Fang Yuan sat in his bed, Mo Yan only stared at him in anger, gritting her teeth. But regardless of this, she did not make a move. This is the pathetic side of humans. Fang Yuan sat up and stared at Mo Yan who was outside looking like a fool, thinking to himself, at times, the things preventing people from taking action is not physical difficulty, but instead it is the restrictions they have placed on themselves subconsciously. When comparing cultivation levels, Fang Yuan was definitely not her match at this point in time. But even with her rank 2 cultivation level, she could only stare at Fang Yuan and had no courage to make a move. Her distance from him was only a few steps away, and the door was wide open with no hindrance. The only thing that was truly restricting her was none other than herself. Humanity sought for knowledge relentlessly to understand the world and to comprehend the rules, and ultimately to use them. If one is constantly bound by the rules, thus being restricted by the very knowledge they sought, that is the ultimate tragedy. Fang Yuan took a final look at Mo Yan before closing his eyes and letting his consciousness sink into the primeval sea. This Fang Yuan dares to cultivate right in front of me. He is simply doing so as he pleases. Looking at this sight, Mo Yan felt a sense of frustration erupting from her chest, making her almost wanting to vomit blood. She badly wanted to go ahead and give him a few punches. But she knew she couldn't. Mo Yan suddenly felt a hint of regret. Standing outside the door, she felt the awkwardness of not being able to back down. She was indignant to give up now, but she would be devastatingly humiliated. She mobilized her servants with the intention to come and teach Fang Yuan a lesson, yet in the end she was the one who ended up becoming the laughing stock. Especially when there was a servant looking at her now. Damn it. Fang Yuan is way too uncooperative. He's too sly. Mo Yan furiously thought and started to provoke him with all sorts of insults, hoping to force him out of the room. Fang Yuan, you brat, come out if you're a man. Fang Yuan, as a man you must own up to your own doings. Now you're being a coward hiding in that room, do you not feel ashamed of yourself? Stop pretending to ignore me, get out if you know what's good for you. You cowardly, spineless trash. Fang Yuan shut his ears and did not give a single response. After scolding for a while, instead of venting all her anger, she felt even more irritated. She was starting to feel like a clown or a shrew. Blocking the door was just way too embarrassing. Ah, this is getting to the death of me. Mo Yan was about to go crazy, and she finally gave up on provoking Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, you can hide now, but you can't hide from me forever. She furiously stomped the ground and left indignantly. Before leaving she gave a final order, Gao Wan, stand there and watch him. I do not believe he will not leave the house. Yes, master. The muscular servant, Gao Wan rapidly replied and sent Mo Yan off. Within his heart he was feeling bitter, the mountain was chilly and breezy at night. He would have to stand guard the entire time, catching a cold easily like this. It was not an easy task. Swish swoosh. Within the primeval sea, ebb and flow of the tides raged on. The green copper primeval essence gathered like water, forcing a tidal wave rolling about. Under Fang Yuan's mental guidance, the waves endlessly crashed towards the surrounding aperture walls. A rank 1 initial stage GU master's aperture walls resembled a white barrier. At this time, with the green copper primeval essence crashing towards them, it produced shadows of light, creating an indescribable feeling. Time passed gradually and the level of the green copper primeval sea slowly declined. From the original 44%, it dropped to 12%. If a GU master wants to raise their cultivation level, they would have to expend their primeval essence to nurture the aperture. Initial stage GU masters have light barriers as their aperture walls, while middle stage GU masters have water barriers as their aperture walls, and for upper stage, they have stone barriers. For me to cultivate from initial stage to middle stage, I will have to nurture the light barrier into water barrier aperture walls. From his 500 years of memories, Fang Yuan had complete familiarity with the current stages of cultivation, and the methods were as clear as day to him. He slowly opened his eyes, only to see that it was already late into the night. The crescent moon hung high in the night sky, the moonlight shining pure as water. The door was wide open and the moonlight shone in, letting Fang Yuan think of a famous poem from Earth. On a quiet night I saw the moonlight before my couch, and wondered if it were not the frost on the ground. 1. The night winds blew with a hint of chilliness. Fang Yuan did not have any warmth type GU, and with just the body of a 15-year-old, he could not help but shiver slightly. The night in the mountain was very cold. Scoundrel, you finally opened your eyes. How long are you planning to be cultivating there? Get out, you'll be punished regardless. You beat up our young master Mo Bei, so it was only a matter of time before young miss teaches you a lesson. Seeing that Fang Yuan had woken up, Gao Wan who was standing at the door got his spirits up. Fang Yuan squinted, it seemed that the rank 2 female GU master had left. Scoundrel, did you hear me? Hurry and come out here. You have a room to stay in and a bed to sleep, but I had to stand here all night. If you don't come out any time soon, don't you believe I might just barge in? Seeing no reaction from Fang Yuan, Gao Wan threatened. Fang Yuan remained unfazed. Scumbag, come out and surrender yourself. You've offended the Mo family, you will not have any good days from now on. Hurry and apologize to young miss and maybe she might just forgive you. Gao Wan continued to chide. Fang Yuan did not listen to a single word. He took out a primeval stone from his storage bag and held it in his hands, finally closing his eyes again. Seeing that he was going to continue cultivating, Gao Wan was anxious and broke into a fit. You mere C-ranked talent, the most you can achieve in life is a rank 2 GU master. What is there to cultivate? You are no match for the entire Mo family by yourself. Kid, are you deaf? Did you listen to a single word I said? 1. A famous poem from Li Bai, a Chinese poet. This chapter was brought to you by Chibigan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibigan for helping with the translations. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 33. Next. Chapter 34. Chapter 34. Suppressive Beating. Fang Yuan paid no heed to the man and started to multitask. He simultaneously absorbed the natural essence from the primeval stone and observed his aperture. The primeval sea level which had originally fell drastically within the aperture, with help from the constant stream of natural essence, began to slowly rise up again. This form of recovery speed was inevitably slow, but Fang Yuan was in no hurry. Cultivation was meant to be accumulative, it could not be rushed. The urgent matter at hand was in fact the middle-aged servant outside the house. After half an hour, Fang Yuan's green copper primeval sea reached 44%, the maximum capacity it could hold. But this was not the end. At this point the primeval sea showed a jade green color. This was only a rank 1 initial stage green copper primeval essence. The primeval essence that Fang Yuan had previously used to nurture the aperture wall was no longer initial stage primeval essence. It had been turned into middle stage primeval essence, refined by the liquor worm. Liquor worm. With a thought from Fang Yuan, the liquor worm within the primeval sea instantly flew out and hovered in midair, its body curling into a ball form, resembling a white rice ball. Swoosh. 10% of his initial stage primeval essence was deployed and sent into the liquor worm's body, and soon the essence was fully absorbed by it. Soon after, a surge of liquor mist emerged from the liquor worm's body and congregated into a lump. Once more, Fang Yuan deployed 10% of his primeval essence and invested it into this liquor mist. Once the mist had been fully expended, the original 10% of initial stage primeval essence shrunk by half physically, and at the same time the color changed from jade green to pale green. This is middle stage primeval essence. In order to advance in their cultivation, ordinary students all use initial stage primeval essence. However, I'll be using middle stage primeval essence, and the efficiency is at least twice of theirs. Similarly, when using middle stage primeval essence to activate the Moonlight GU and throw a Moonblade, it will be far stronger than activating it using initial stage primeval essence. Only when all the primeval essence in the primeval sea had been converted to middle stage primeval essence did Fang Yuan open his eyes. Time passes in the blink of an eye when cultivating, and at this point it was already midnight. The sky was no longer a pure black, but it had turned a deep dark blue color. The moon was no longer visible, and only a few lingering stars remained. The door was open almost throughout the entire night, and a corner of the wooden door was already wet, showing a dark color as the water tainted it. The school hostel had this disadvantage: it was not as comfortable as an ordinary wooden lodge that was built above the ground, but it was directly built on the ground and thus it had high humidity. Coming back to reality, Fang Yuan felt a chill down his spine. After sitting cross-legged for such a long time, both his legs felt numb. He opened his clenched right fist and scattered a handful of white stone powder. This was the primeval stone after its essence had been fully absorbed, and what remained was only the leftover powder. After a night of cultivation, I had expended 3 primeval stones. Fang Yuan calculated in his mind. He had C-ranked talent, but in order to pursue faster cultivation speed, he used primeval stones to replenish his primeval essence. What was more crucial was the liquor worm, as it had been used to refine his middle-stage primeval essence. This had greatly increased the expenditure of his primeval stones. Although I plundered another sum of primeval stones yesterday, a night of cultivation cost me 3 stones. In this case, although it might seem that I have a lot of resources, it is unable to sustain me for a long time with my current cultivation speed, but this is the price I have to pay for pursuing cultivation speed and efficiency. Fang Yuan looked outside the room again, only to see Gao Wan, the muscular servant, squatting at a corner with his body curled up, seemingly fallen asleep. Looks like that rank 2 female GU master had left long ago, leaving this Gao Wan here to keep a watch on me. Hee. Fang Yuan revealed a cold smile as he got off the bed and began to exercise his limbs. Once his body had warmed up, he left the hostel. Lad, you finally decided to come out. So how about it? Obediently surrender and leave with me to kowtow and apologize to our young miss. Gao Wan's ears caught Fang Yuan's footsteps and he stood up immediately. His muscular body was almost twice the size of Fang Yuan. The muscles in his body tightened and his brows knitted together, a pair of cruel eyes shining with evil light, resembling a starving hyena. Fang Yuan expressionlessly walked towards him. Lad, you should have came out earlier. By coming out now, do you know how much the great me had to suffer by watching over you? He snickered while approaching Fang Yuan, evidently planning something sinister. At this moment, Fang Yuan lightly cried out, and with a ferocious leap he aimed both fists towards Gao Wan. Bastard, you're courting death. Gao Wan's face distorted with rising anger within him, raised his brick-sized fist and he punched towards Fang Yuan. The fist was extremely powerful, slicing through air and the swooshing sound of the wind could be heard. Fang Yuan's eyes shone clear as crystal. Seeing that the fist was approaching close, he sidestepped and turned towards Gao Wan's rear. Stretching out a finger, he struck towards Gao Wan's waist. Gao Wan blocked with his retracted arm. Fang Yuan did not get a clear hit, and ended up hitting onto Gao Wan's left forearm. Fang Yuan's finger felt like it had hit a steel plate, painful and numb. This Gao Wan has already approached the limits of a mortal's physical prowess. Right now I can only use the Moonlight GU to fight, and without any other GU worms to assist me, I am not his match at basic close combat. Fang Yuan's eyes shone and he decided quickly to give up on attacking. Instead, he retracted a few steps and pulled some distance away from Gao Wan. In the GUU village, only the GUU clansmen had the rights to cultivate as a GU master. The outsiders, regardless of whether they had cultivation talent or not, had no rights to attend the awakening ceremony. But these mortals could train in physical combat. Just like the Gao Wan here, although he was not a GU master, he had trained vigorously in his punches and kicks and his basic skill was steadfast. Additionally, he was a middle-aged man, and this meant being at the physical prime in a mortal's lifetime. Fang Yuan, other than having the Moonlight GU to fight, had only the body of a 15-year-old teenager. Be it strength, agility or endurance, he was not Gao Wan's match. Martial artists like Gao Wan were sufficient enough to kill a rank 1 initial stage GU master. Even towards a rank 1 middle stage GU master, they still posed a certain threat. This lad is too sneaky. Seeing that Fang Yuan had drawn some distance between them, Gao Wan felt anxiety within his heart. The waist was a vital point of the body, and if it was damaged by someone through brute force, the harm was not negligible. If the force was exerted beyond a point, it could also be deadly. Gao Wan had waited outside the hostel for the entire night, and thus his body was enshrouded by the moist atmosphere, causing his reaction speed to be slightly slower. Hence the strike earlier had almost succeeded. Fortunately, although he was a bootlicker, he had trained hard in his physical ability. So at the crucial moment his body's reflex instinctively reacted and allowed him to narrowly block Fang Yuan's attack. I can't be careless anymore. This lad behaves like a wolf, striking harsh and deviously, getting his way whenever I am even but a little careless. No wonder young master was knocked out by him twice. Gao Wan wiped the sweat off his forehead and swept away all hints of contempt. He started to take his opponent seriously. If I can capture this lad, it'd be a great accomplishment. Young miss is sure to reward me. A rank 1 initial stage's moonblade is at max only like a small dagger, so as long as it does not hit my vital points it'll merely be a light external injury. Thinking of this, Gao Wan's heart started to beat faster. Stretching out his shovel-like hands, he grabbed at Fang Yuan. Boom boom boom. Fang Yuan showed no fear and approached Gao Wan to engage in close combat. Exchanging punches and kicks, taking turns attacking and defending, loud impact sounds echoed through the area. When plundering the students, he had only used his palm with his objective being to control the crowd. But now when engaging with Gao Wan, Fang Yuan had gone all out. At times he used his fingers to jab at the eyes, sometimes strangling the throat, hitting the jaw with the base of his palm, chopping at the back of his opponent's head, using the knee to strike the pelvic area, or using his hands to grab at the waist. Gao Wan's sweat poured out like a river. Fang Yuan's moves were all aiming at the vital points, each strike devious and deadly as if he wanted to end Gao Wan's life right there. Gao Wan was a mere mortal, and unlike the GU masters, although he trained well in his physical combat, his vital points remained vital. Mortals were unable to train their eyelids to become steel-like. This was the limits of the mortal martial arts. In addition, Gao Wan did not dare to unleash any deadly moves on Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was a GUU clansman, so killing him would incur public rage and he would be immediately executed. In fact, the Mo family will be the first to carry out his punishment. Thus his only thought was to capture Fang Yuan alive, and it would be good if he could make Fang Yuan suffer in the process of capture. One side has apprehension while the other side had killing intent. The situation thus became Fang Yuan suppressing Gao Wan in the fight. One Diao Jiao Zulu ordinary wooden lodge that was built above the ground, see image. This chapter was brought to you by Chibigan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibigan for helping with the translations. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 34. Next. Chapter 35. Chapter 35. Go ahead and scream. Fang Yuan had the upper hand for now, but it could not sustain him for much longer. Exchanging blows back and forth, he was already panting in exhaustion. In contrast, Gao Wan's breathing was still smooth and in sync, reflecting the huge difference in stamina between the two. At the same time, as Gao Wan exercised his limbs, his body gradually heated up while his punching speed became faster and faster. The effect of the cold that caused him to be slow and numb had worn off, displaying the true skills honed by his training for decades. Lad, you are unable to beat me. There are clan rules stating that within the school hostel, you are forbidden from using the Moonlight GU. You are dead meat, doomed to be my captive. Gao Wan laughed maniacally. His fighting experience was rich, so he attempted to use words to cause Fang Yuan's fighting spirit to waver. In the end, I'm only just a teenager and my body that hasn't fully developed cannot be compared to this servant. Fang Yuan's state of mind was calm as ice. Having sharpened his will for 500 years, there was no way his fighting spirit would waver. Moonlight GU, he called out in his mind, activating his primeval essence and at the same time leaping backwards to pull away from Gao Wan. Gao Wan wanted to chase after him, but he suddenly saw a watery blue light emitting from Fang Yuan's palm. His face darkened and he shouted, "Lad, you are using the GU worm to fight in the school hostel, this is against the clan rules." "So what if I break the rules?" Fang Yuan sneered. He learnt the clan rules and memorized it to heart, but it was not for the sake of obeying it. Immediately, his palm slashed and arced towards Gao Wan. With a ching sound, the blue moonblade flew towards Gao Wan's face. Gao Wan gritted his teeth as he raised both arms to cover his face, forming a protective shield. At the same time, he rushed towards Fang Yuan without pause, planning to endure the attack while ending the battle as quickly as he could. The moonblade struck his arm. With a popping sound, his flesh and blood poured out under the moonlight, a wave of extreme pain hitting Gao Wan's nerves. The unguarded man nearly fainted from the pain. How can this be? His rush towards Fang Yuan stopped, and he frightfully found out that both his limbs had been cut open with a deep wound. Fresh blood oozed out from the wound and from the side, while bloody muscles could be observed hanging around his flesh. Even the broken white bones of the forearm could be seen. Gao Wan was shocked beyond words. This is impossible. A rank 1 initial stage moonblade, the most it could do is to lightly injure my flesh. How could it cut through my bones? Only a rank 1 middle stage can do this. He had no idea. While Fang Yuan was a rank 1 initial stage GU master, due to the liquor worm's refining, he possessed rank 1 middle stage primeval essence. The Moonlight GU, activated using middle stage primeval essence, emitted a moonblade far superior to the initial stage that he originally predicted. This is bad, this boy is weird. Gao Wan, who was caught off guard, had already suffered a grave injury. His fighting spirit was gone and he decisively decided to retreat. Are you able to escape? Fang Yuan smiled coldly as he started to give chase, the moonblades in his hands shooting out consecutively. Save me! Gao Wan shouted out in horror as he fled, his voice traveling far out beyond the school hostel. What is going on? Someone is asking for help. The voice alerted the school hostel guards who were nearby. It's the Mo family's young miss, Mo Yan's servant. The guards who arrived stopped in their tracks upon seeing the chasing scene. This is only a servant, there is no need for us to risk protecting him. Letting him stay here was already a favor towards the Mo family. We still have to be careful, just in case he hurts Fang Yuan in desperation. The anxious guards all gathered around, but no one lent a hand to Gao Wan, they only observed from the sidelines. This servant Gao Wan, even if he died, it had nothing to do with them. However, if Fang Yuan died or got hurt, it would be their responsibility. Seeing such a sight, Gao Wan despaired, he tragically screamed, "We are all outsiders. You cannot leave me to die." His blood loss was getting more severe, and his speed decreased. Fang Yuan caught up to him, his voice cold as ice, announcing Gao Wan's death sentence, "Go ahead and scream. It doesn't matter how loud you do so." While saying that, the blade in his arm rotated, and he fired 2 moonblades towards Gao Wan. Swoosh, swoosh, the moonblades flew towards Gao Wan's neck. The servant lost all hope, seemingly one step away into the abyss. The next moment, he felt that his world was spinning, he actually saw his own feet, chest, back, and that severed neck. Afterwards, total darkness awaited him. Gao Wan had died. Beheaded by 2 moonblades, his head flew away from the impact, his body pushed back 10 meters before falling. The neck area spewed out a fountain of fresh blood, dyeing the surrounding grass a blood red. Murder. Fang Yuan killed someone. The guards could not help but scream out. They had witnessed the entire process, and they felt a sense of extreme trepidation and terror rushing all over their body. Fang Yuan was just a weak 15-year-old teenager, but he expressionlessly murdered a strong adult. This was the power of a GU master. The victory had been set. Fang Yuan slowed in his footsteps and gradually moved towards the corpse. His face was calm, as if he had done nothing out of the ordinary. This expression further sent a shiver down the guards' spines. Gao Wan's head lay on the ground, both his eyes wide open, turning in his grave. Fang Yuan stared coldly. He raised his leg and sent the head flying. The guard's eyelids twitched. Fang Yuan approached the corpse and found that it was still vibrating. The blood spread through the ground, forming a small bloody puddle. He looked at Gao Wan's injuries with a grim expression. These injuries were deep enough to expose the secret to the fact that he had middle-stage primeval essence. Once this was exposed, it'll be quickly deduced that he had a liquor worm, and with that the family would naturally think of the flower wine monk. Thus, Fang Yuan had to keep this secret hidden. But there are too many onlookers. Fang Yuan's gaze swept through the nearby guards, there was more than 10 of them. He had less than 10% primeval essence left, so there was no way to kill them all. After pondering for a while, Fang Yuan bent down and raised Gao Wan's ankle, dragging the corpse away. "Young Master Fang Yuan, you can leave this to us." The guards controlled their fear and approached Fang Yuan, politely speaking. The respect and politeness held a tint of obvious fear. Fang Yuan silently looked at the guards, and they all held their breaths, looking down. "Give me the saber," he stretched out his hand and lightly said. With authority in his speech, he emitted undeniable pressure. The guard closest to him uncontrollably handed him the saber on his waist. Fang Yuan took the saber over and continued walking, leaving behind a dozen stunned guards staring after his back. The sun rose from the east, and the first ray of light shone over the mountain peak, lighting up the school hostel. 15-year-old Fang Yuan, with the scrawny body of a teenager, a pale look upon his skin. Under the sunrise, he casually walked. In his left hand was a shiny saber. In his right hand, a headless corpse. His path left behind a trail of bright red blood traces dragged out on the road. The guards were flabbergasted, their bodies stiff due to the frightening scene. Even as the sunlight shone on them, they could not feel a sense of warmth and light. Gulp. Someone among them swallowed their saliva loudly. Author's note: he's just asking for readers to recommend his book to others. Second half is just trying to motivate the readers. For a book that is just written, there will be people who like it and people who don't. For those who don't like it, there is no need to struggle, force yourselves, you can just go and read another book. For those who like it, please do your best to support the book. On the first day of the new year, I ask for recommendations, please bookmark this book. After the apocalypse, I implore everyone of the same Tao to display their strengths, gather our powers and rise up as the demonic flames, and let the people of the world see the power of us demon cultivators. In the new year, those that defend the last remaining territory of the demonic ways, let the demonic way rise up again, and become legendary. This chapter was brought to you by Chibigan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibigan for helping with the translations. Donations are finally open for Reverend Insanity. +_+. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 35. Next. Chapter 36. Chapter 36, Gifting a Disseminated Corpse. Did you guys hear? Fang Yuan killed someone. A student whispered to his classmate beside him. I heard it too, he really killed somebody. The classmate clenched his chest with a pale face. There were many guards who saw him do it. Fang Yuan was chasing after that man. That guy tried to beg for mercy but Fang Yuan paid him no heed and decapitated him immediately. That's not all. After killing him, Fang Yuan didn't even spare his headless corpse. He dragged it back to the hostel and chopped it into a meat paste. Are you for real? I'm serious beyond belief. I came early this morning and I could still see the bloodstains left between the cracks of the green rock. Oh man, why would I lie to you? Earlier, the academy elder called Fang Yuan over for this matter. The youths in the academy did not pay attention to class as they held their little conversations. To this group of 15-year-olds, the concept of killing was too foreign and too scary. They had been under the protection of the clan since a young age and had at most experienced organized sparring or simply killing chickens and dogs. As for killing a person, it was still beyond them. Who did Fang Yuan kill? I heard it was a family servant of the Mo branch family. Yup, I'm the clearest about this matter. Yesterday, I personally saw the Mo family's Mo Yan bring a bunch of family servants to find trouble with Fang Yuan. The Mo family, that's not good. Mo Bei is in trouble now. A number of the youths turned to look at Gu Mo Bei. Mo Bei sat on his seat with a pale face. He had only heard about the news of Fang Yuan killing someone this morning. Additionally, it was the Gao Wan that Mo Bei was familiar with. As one of the more energetic family servants, Gao Wan was good at bootlicking and had also put effort into his fighting skills. He was an able lackey. A long while ago, Gao Wan had even sparred with Mo Bei for a bit. To think that he was simply killed by Fang Yuan. It was precisely because of this that Mo Bei felt astonished. He was full of disbelief and felt twice the shock compared to the others. However, compared to his shock, he felt a greater sense of worry and fear. Facing a murderer like Fang Yuan, it would be a lie if Mo Bei said that he was not afraid. Actually, it was not just him, the other youngsters were afraid too. When Fang Yuan had robbed them twice previously, all of them had gotten physical with him. I actually fought with such a ruthless murderer. To think that I'm actually still alive. Many of them patted their chest, feeling a lingering fear. Fang Yuan killing someone was still somewhat acceptable, but the crux was that he even dissected the corpse and chopped the body into meat paste. That was way too cruel. The truth of such a horrifying crime had a strong impact on all of the youth's pure and innocent minds. Within the room, there was only the academy elder and Fang Yuan. The academy elder sat while Fang Yuan stood. Neither of them spoke a word, causing the atmosphere to be extremely tense. The academy elder silently looked at Fang Yuan and a hint of complication flashed in his eyes. In the morning, the guards had reported to him about Fang Yuan's murder incident. This news had made him feel both shocked and suspicious. He was a rank 3 GU master and was in charge of the academy. He obviously knew the fighting strength of a rank 1 initial stage GU master. Fang Yuan being able to kill Gao Wan was like the weak defeating the strong. In truth, some guards had already reported to him that Mo Yan had trapped Fang Yuan within the academy by barging in the previous night. Back then, he had not paid attention to the matter and had not stopped them. He was the academy elder, his objective was to nurture future GU masters, not to protect them. As long as there were no deaths among the students, he encouraged hidden conflicts. Mo Yan coming to find trouble with Fang Yuan was something that he was happy to see. For one, he knew that regardless of whether the fight was won or lost, it would be beneficial to Fang Yuan's growth. Secondly, he wanted to suppress Fang Yuan's influence. Fang Yuan had consecutively blocked the academy's gates and robbed the other students. His influence was too great, it had to be suppressed. However, he hadn't expected that Mo Yan would return fruitlessly and that the family servant that she had left behind would be unable to beat Fang Yuan. Gao Wan even got killed by him. In this world, strength was above all else. Killing someone was not something peculiar. Especially to a Gu master, it was something very common. But it was not so simple when it was a 15-year-old's first kill. The academy elder vividly remembered his first killing scene. Back then, he was already a rank 2 GU master. At the age of 19, he had killed a GU master from the Bai clan's village in a conflict. After killing the person, he vomited profusely and panicked in his heart. For a few days, he had no mood to eat and had no appetite. He could not even find peace in his sleep. The moment he shut his eyes, he would see the dead person staring angrily at him. But looking at Fang Yuan now, his face was calm as ice. Where was the fluster? Not to mention that he had no uneasy feelings. It was almost like he had slept perfectly well last night, as if the person who killed a man was not him at all. Especially when the academy elder heard more about the matter. After Fang Yuan had killed the servant, he did not spare the corpse and had even dragged it back to the dormitory to chop it into meat paste in his rage. Such vicious methods, even hearing about it was a kind of terror. Thus, at this point, the academy elder looked at Fang Yuan with complicated emotions. On one hand, he was amazed at Fang Yuan's indifference towards life, his attitude was as steady and as cold as ice. On the other hand, he was appreciative of the fact that Fang Yuan was a born battle freak. After familiarizing himself with the Moonlight GU for a few days, he had managed to kill someone with it. An ordinary teenager, even those with great talents, may not be able to achieve this. This was a talent for battle. If he was well nurtured and fought for the clan, it would be all of their enemies' nightmare. Lastly, he felt worry and distressed. Worry because after this incident, Fang Yuan's reputation was sure to rise and it would be impossible to suppress him. Fang Yuan was way too daring. Not only did he disobey the clan rules by using his GU in the academy, he even killed someone with it. There was a need to suppress his influence. Otherwise, how would the elder be able to manage this academy anymore? Distress was because he did not know how to perfectly resolve this issue. After all, it involved the Mo family's side. Fang Yuan, do you know why I called you here to meet me? The academy elder used a solemn and deep voice to break the silence in the room. I know. Fang Yuan nodded and replied, I used the Moonlight GU in the academy, breaking the clan rules. According to the rules, as it is my first offense, I should compensate 30 pieces of primeval stones as punishment. He evaded the crucial point and did not mention Gao Wan's death. The academy elder was stunned for a second, he had not expected that Fang Yuan would answer like this. His expression darkened as he coldly snapped, don't try to blur things in front of me. I'll ask you, what was the matter with Gao Wan's death? Fang Yuan squinted his eyes and said, HMPH, this Gao Wan went against his superiors, his intentions were vicious. Last night, not only did he block my room door, he even tried to kill me. In self-defense, I was forced to use the Moonlight GU. Fortunately, I managed to kill this traitor. I suspect that there is a high possibility of him being a spy of the other mountain villages. I implore the elders to investigate this thoroughly. Upon hearing this, the academy elder frowned and became at a loss for words. Now that Gao Wan was dead, Fang Yuan could say whatever he wanted. After all, Gao Wan was just an outsider, not a member of the clan. Even if he was dead, it would not matter to the academy elder. However, he was worried about the Mo family's reaction. Gao Wan was their servant and he had died within the academy. The academy elder was in charge of the academy and had to give the Mo family an explanation. Thinking for a bit, the academy elder stared at Fang Yuan and questioned, then let me ask you. Gao Wan's corpse, how did you deal with it? Fang Yuan's lips curled, revealing a cruel smile. I diced Gao Wan's corpse and put it inside a wooden box. When morning came, I put it at the Mo family's back door. What? The academy elder was stunned beyond words as he almost jumped from his seat. Not only did Fang Yuan kill their family servant, he had even chopped up the corpse and placed it at the Mo family's back door. This was blatant provocation. To the academy elder who was trying to resolve this peacefully, it was a true nightmare. Fang Yuan was just a small rank 1 GU master, how would the large Mo family react? Thinking of this, the academy elder felt a headache as the matter had already developed out of his control. This Fang Yuan was a true troublemaker. Sigh, since it has already happened, there's no point in saying any more. Leave first, the punishment will come within these few days, you should get mentally prepared. The academy elder was terribly upset. He waved his hand and signaled for Fang Yuan to leave. He needed to think through this calmly to come up with a solution. TL note, so my person in charge said. I can post on my site with a time delay while Kidian's site has to be the first, so I'm just going to post here too anyway if that's the case. Oh. Skypharaoh. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 36. Next. Chapter 37. Chapter 37, both a compromise and a threat. Meanwhile, at the Mo family. What were my instructions to you? See what you did. In the study room, Gu Mo Chen slammed the table, exploding with a rage. Mo Yan stood opposite this old man, her head lowered. Her eyes were full of shock and rage. She had also just gotten the news that Gao Wan had been killed by Fang Yuan. That 15-year-old teenager, to think he had such methods and determination. Gao Wan was the proud servant of her Mo family, and Fang Yuan's act of killing him was a blatant showing of disrespect towards them. Grandpa, you don't have to be so angry. This Gao Wan was only a servant, his death is of no concern. He isn't a GUU clan member anyways. But that Fang Yuan, he is too daring, you have to look at the owner before you beat the dog. Not only did he beat our dog but he even beat it to death. Mo Yan said indignantly. Gu Mo Chen furiously scowled, you still have the cheeks to say that. Have your wings grown so tough now that you don't even put my words to heart, What I told you before, you have forgotten all about it. Your granddaughter dares not. Mo Yan jumped in shock. She knew now that her grandfather was really angry and quickly kneeled down. Gu Mo Chen pointed his finger out the window and scolded, HMPH, so what if that servant died? But now you are still showing hostility towards Fang Yuan. This is really a matter of you being short-sighted and unclear of the implications. Do you know the significance of your actions? The fight among juniors is their own business. As elders, we should not interfere. These are the rules. Now that you went to find trouble with Fang Yuan, it means you are breaking the rules. I can't tell how many people are out there now, looking at this disgrace of our Mo family. Grandpa, please calm down, anger will harm your body. It's Mo Yan's fault, I burdened the Mo family. Whatever Grandpa tells Mo Yan to do, Mo Yan will do it. But your granddaughter really cannot take this lying down, that Fang Yuan is too despicable, too shameless. First, he lied to me and entered the academy. Next, he hid in the dormitory and no matter how much I scolded him, he would not come out. Once I left, he went ahead and killed Gao Wan. He is extremely sinister and despicable. Mo Yan reported. Oh, is that so? Gu Mo Chen frowned. This was the first time he had heard this information and a bright light shone across his eyes. He took in a deep breath, suppressing his rage, and he stroked his beard while saying, I've heard stories about this Fang Yuan. In his early years, he was able to make poems and songs, showing early intelligence. But to think that he only had C-grade talent. It was difficult for him to have a good future and thus I gave up on recruiting him. But now it seems that it's slightly interesting. Pausing for a second, Gu Mo Chen knocked on the table and ordered, someone, bring that box over here. The servant outside the door quickly obeyed. Soon, he brought in a box. The box was neither too big nor too small but it was slightly heavy. The servant used both hands to carry it and stood beside the study table. Grandpa, what is this? Mo Yan stared at the wooden box and asked doubtfully. Why don't you open it and take a look? Gu Mo Chen squinted his eyes and said in a complicated tone. Mo Yan stood up, flipped over the wooden lid and looked inside. Immediately, her facial expression changed and her pupils shrunk to a needle-like size. She could not help but take a step back and let loose an unsuppressed scream. The wooden lid in her hand also fell to the ground. Without the wooden lid, the thing kept within the wooden box was shown to everyone present. It was actually a pile of flesh and blood. The bloody flesh was obviously sliced off piece by piece and placed into the box. Bright scarlet blood had accumulated inside. There was some pale skin and flesh, while some were long strands of intestines, mixed in with a few pieces of bones, either leg bones or the ribs. In the pool of blood at a corner, there were also 2 fingers and half a toe floating in it. Blech. Mo Yan's beautiful face changed color as she took another step backwards, her stomach turning as she almost vomited on the spot. She was rank 2 GU master and had gone out to gain experience before. Despite that, this was the first time that she had seen such a disgusting and twisted scene even though she had killed people before. The flesh and blood in this box were obviously the corpse of a person after being minced into pieces and stuffed in. The scent of blood burst into the air and rapidly permeated the air immediately, filling the entire study room. Both of the family servants' hands shook as he carried the box, his complexion pale. Although he had seen the box earlier and vomited before, he could still feel waves of palpitation and disgust as he held it now. Among the 3 people in the study room, only the family elder Gu Mo Chen was unfazed. He lightly looked at the contents of the box for a moment and said to Mo Yan slowly, "This box was what Fang Yuan had placed at our family's back door this morning." "What, it's really him?" Mo Yan was extremely shocked as images of Fang Yuan showed up in her mind. The first time she saw Fang Yuan, it was at the inn. At that time, Fang Yuan sat near the window, quietly eating his meal. His facial features were bland and both of his eyes were dark and gloomy. His body was thin and his skin had the special paleness of a teenager. He looked like such a normal and quiet youth. To think that he had done such a twisted and insane act. After her initial shock came a furious rage. Mo Yan yelled, "This Fang Yuan is too outrageous, who gave him the guts to do so? To dare to do such a thing, this is a provocation towards our Mo family. I will go ahead now and bring him here to question him for his crimes." After she said this, she headed towards the exit. "You scoundrel, stop right there." Gu Mo Chen was angrier than she was as he grabbed an ink slab on his study desk and threw it over. The hard and heavy ink slab hit Mo Yan's shoulder and with a bang, it fell to the ground. "Grandpa." Mo Yan held her shoulder as she called out in alarm. Gu Mo Chen stood up, his finger pointing at his granddaughter as he spoke with an extremely agitated tone. "It seems like all these years of training were in vain. You have disappointed me greatly. Against a small rank 1 initial stage GU master, not to mention you involving so many people, but even getting led by the nose by the other party. Now that you've let your rage get the better of you, at this point, do you still not understand the meaning behind Fang Yuan's actions?" "What meaning?" Mo Yan was puzzled. Gu Mo Chen snorted, "If Fang Yuan wanted to provoke us, he would have blown up this matter. So why did he place this box at the secluded back door instead of placing it at the front door where there are many people walking around? Maybe he wants to reconcile with us." "No, if he wanted to reconcile, wouldn't it be better to apologize face to face? Why must he send us this box of minced corpse? This is definitely a provocation," Mo Yan said. Gu Mo Chen shook his head, then nodded. "He wants to reconcile, but at the same time, he is also provoking us. Placing the wooden box at the back door is his intention to reconcile. Placing the corpse inside the box, that is a provocation. You see," the old man pointed at the box, and spoke, "this wooden box is not big, and it cannot hold a complete corpse. Therefore there can only be a portion of the corpse inside. He is trying to tell us that he does not wish to blow up this matter and wants to settle this amicably. But if our Mo family wants to pursue this matter, he will place the remainder of the corpse at our main entrance, thoroughly blowing up the issue. By that time, it would be a losing situation for both sides. The entire clan knows that our Mo family broke the rules first, and to our Mo family's future head, this would be seen as him being so weak since he actually required his elders' doting and protection." Upon hearing these words, Mo Yan was momentarily dumbfounded. She had never expected that Fang Yuan's actions would have such profound meaning. "His method is really wise," Gu Mo Chen said with admiration. "With just one action, he exercised both toughness and softness, capable of advancing and retreating safely. This is just a simple wooden box, but it not only expresses Fang Yuan's intention to compromise but also his ability to pose a threat to our Mo family. And it so happens that he does hold on to the weakness of our Mo family. If the Mo family's reputation is tarnished, what follows after will be the Kai family's attack as well as the assault from the clan leader's side. Mo Yan found it unbelievable. Grandpa, aren't you thinking too highly of him? Are you sure that he's capable of this? He is only 15 years old. Too highly. Mo Chen looked at his granddaughter unhappily. Looks like you've had too smooth a life in these past few years. Fostering your arrogant attitude, you were unable to clearly see the reality. This Fang Yuan was unfazed towards danger and deceived you to enter the school. Next, he used his wisdom in the face of danger and hid within the dormitory to avoid trouble. No matter what insult you threw at him, he did not respond. This is his ability to calmly endure. After you left, he killed Gao Wan immediately. This is his bravery and courage. Now he sent this box, clearly showing his wisdom and planning ability. Can you still say that I thought of him too highly? Mo Yan listened with wide eyes as she had not expected her grandfather to praise Fang Yuan so highly. Immediately she said indignantly, Grandpa, he only has AC grade talent. Guu Mo Chen sighed deeply, yes, he is only AC grade. Having such wisdom and yet only C grade talent, it really is a pity. As long as his talent was higher, even if it was just a B grade, he would certainly become an influential member of our Guu clan. What a pity, he is only AC grade. The old man's sigh was full of emotion. His sigh held both regret and at the same time rejoice. Mo Yan was silent and in her mind, Fang Yuan's image appeared once again. Under her psychological influence, Fang Yuan's frail expression was shrouded by a layer of mysterious and vicious shadow. This problem was created by you single-handedly. How are you going to settle it? Guu Mo Chen broke the silence as he started to test Mo Yan. Mo Yan pondered for a while before she replied in a cold and aloof tone, Gao Wan was just a servant, so there are no implications even if he dies. Fang Yuan is just a C grade, so he is also a small matter. What's important is maintaining my Mo family's reputation. To appease this matter, we might as well kill Gao Wan's entire family to show the entire clan our attitude to protect the rules and regulations. You're able to think of the big picture. Setting aside your personal emotions to defend the interests of family, this is very good. However, your method is still flawed. Guu Mo Chen analyzed her response. Please enlighten me, Grandpa, Mo Yan implored. Guu Mo Chen said solemnly, this matter was instigated by you, so I shall punish you with 7 days of confinement. From now on, do not find trouble with Fang Yuan again. Gao Wan defied his superiors, a servant who dares to offend his master deserves death, so he should have been executed for his crimes. Because he is a servant of the Mo family, we are responsible for our inability to educate our subordinate and thus we shall compensate that Fang Yuan with 30 primeval stones. As for Gao Wan's family members, give them 50 primeval stones as compensation and expel them from the clan. After a short pause, he continued, for the next 7 days, rest well at home, do not go out. At the same time, think about the profound meaning of why Grandpa chose to handle the matter this way. Yes, Grandpa. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 37. Next. Chapter 38 Chapter 38 Demon Walking in the Light. From the layers of dark clouds in the sky, the spring rain fell. The raindrops were thin like hair. As they fell, they enveloped Qingmao Mountain in a layer of fine mist. The dining hall on the first floor of the inn was rather empty. There were only 4 tables of guests. Fang Yuan sat at a seat by the window. A gust of wind blew, bringing with it a poetic atmosphere and the scent of flowers. The light rain from the sky is sleek and crisp, the color of grass is seen from afar but disappears when close. Fang Yuan looked outside through a window and quoted a poem lightly before he turned his sights back to the inn. Before him was a table filled with good wine and dishes. The color, smell and taste were all top-notch. Especially the green bamboo wine which oozed with the fragrance of alcohol along with a hint of freshness. The dark green-colored liquor sat quietly in the bamboo cup. From his angle, it shone with an amber-like luster. A grandfather and his grandson were sitting at the table nearest to him. Being mortal humans, they wore modest clothes. The grandfather sipped his rice wine while looking enviously at Fang Yuan. He was evidently attracted to the green bamboo wine but could not afford it. The grandson ate his braised beans, a crunching sound emitting from his mouth as he chewed. At the same time, he pestered his grandfather, shaking his arm. "Grandpa, Grandpa, tell me about the story of Renzu. If you don't tell me, I'll report to Grandma that you secretly came out to drink." "Sigh, I can't even drink in peace." The grandfather sighed, but his face showed a doting expression towards the child. With his twig-like arm, he patted the boy's head. "Then let me tell you the story of Renzu, who gave his heart to the Hope Gu, escaping his predicament of being captured." Renzu's story was the most popular and widespread tale in this world, as well as the most ancient legend. The old man's story was something like this. The story mentioned that Renzu was able to escape his predicament because of hope. But eventually he grew old, and without strength and wisdom, he could no longer continue to hunt. Even his teeth fell off, making him unable to chew many wild fruits and vegetables. Renzu felt death slowly approaching. At this time, the Hope Gu said to him, "Human, you must not die. If you die, your heart will be lost and I will lose my only place of residence." Renzu was helpless. "Who wishes to die? But if the heavens and earth want me dead, I have no choice." The Hope Gu said, "There's always hope in everything. As long as you can catch a longevity Gu, you will be able to increase your lifespan." Renzu had heard of the existence of the longevity Gu long ago, but he waved his hand helplessly. When the longevity Gu stays still, nobody can detect it, and when it flies, it is faster than light. "How can I possibly catch it? It's too hard." The Hope Gu then told Renzu a secret. "Human, don't give up hope no matter what. Let me tell you, on the northwest corner of this continent, there is a huge mountain. On the mountain, there is a cave, and in that cave, there is a pair of round and square Gu worms. As long as you can subdue them, there is no Gu in this world that you cannot catch, including the longevity Gu." Renzu had no choice. This was his last remaining hope. He braved all difficulties and finally found the mountain. He then risked his life and ventured through countless dangers to ascend the mountain. On the mountain top, near the cave entrance, he used his last remaining strength to slowly make his way in. The inside of the cave was completely dark, and one would not be able to even see their own fingers. Renzu walked in the darkness. Sometimes, he would bump into things not knowing what they were. This caused himself to get injured and wounded all over. At times, he felt that this dark cave was huge beyond words, as if this was a world of its own. He felt as if he was the only person in the area. He spent a lot of time, but he could not walk out of the darkness. Not to mention subduing the two Gu worms. Just when he was at a loss about what to do, two voices spoke to him from the darkness. One voice said, "Human, you're here to catch us. Go back, for even if you had the strength Gu, it would be impossible." The other said, "Human, go back, we will not take your life. Even if you had the wisdom Gu to help you, you may not be able to find us." Renzu laid exhausted on the ground, panting. "The strength and wisdom Gu had left me long ago, and I do not have much lifespan left, so I'm at my wit's end. But as long as there's hope in my heart, I will not give up." Hearing Renzu's words, the two voices went silent. After a while, one of the Gu said, "I understand, human, you have already given your heart to the Hope Gu. You will not give up no matter what." The other continued, "In that case, we shall give you a chance. As long as you can say our name, we will allow you to use us." Renzu was stunned. To find their names among all the words in the world, it was akin to finding a needle in a haystack. Furthermore, he did not even know how many words were in their names. Renzu quickly asked the Hope Gu, but it did not know either. Renzu had no alternatives and had no choice but to randomly guess their names. He said many names and wasted a lot of time, but the darkness did not respond to him, so evidently he was wrong. Eventually, Renzu's breath got weaker as he turned from an old man into a dying man. It was like the scene of the evening's setting sun. The sun that would slowly descending had already been lowered halfway across the horizon, becoming a sunset. The food he had brought was gradually reduced, his brain becoming slower, and he barely had any energy to speak anymore. The voice in the darkness urged, "Human, you are almost dead, so we will let you go. Using your remaining time, you can climb out of the cave and take a final look at the world. But you have offended us, and as punishment, the Hope Gu shall stay here as our companion." Renzu clenched his heart and rejected, "Even if I die, I will not give up hope." The Hope Gu was very touched and answered Renzu's call enthusiastically, emitting a bright light. At Renzu's chest area, a light began to shine. But this light was too weak, it could not illuminate the darkness. In fact, it could not even cover Renzu's entire body, but only engulfed his chest area. Yet Renzu could feel a renewed surge of energy gushing into his body from the Hope Gu. He continued to speak, shouting out names. But he was already muddled. A lot of names had already been said, but he could not remember that and repeated them, wasting a lot of effort in the process. As time continued to flow, Renzu's lifespan was almost over. Finally, when he was on his final day, he said out the word, regulation. A sigh came from the darkness as a voice spoke, "Human, I admire your perseverance. You have said my name, so from today onwards, I will obey your commands. But only with my brother can I aid you in capturing all the Gu in the world. Otherwise, with my ability alone, it is impossible. Thus, you should give up. You're almost dead, you might as well use this chance to take a final look at the world." Renzu was determined and shook his head. He made use of all his time to continue saying out names as he tried to guess the other Gu worm's name. Seconds and minutes went by and soon he only had 1 hour left. But at this time, he unknowingly said the word, rule. Immediately, the darkness dissipated. The two Gus appeared before him. As the Hope Gu had said, one was cubic, called regulations. The other was spherical, called rules. Together, they made up rules and regulations. The two Gu said together, "No matter who it is, as long as they know our names, we will listen to them. Human, since you know our names already, we will be at your service. But you must remember, it is important to not let others know of our names. The more people that know our names, the more people we have to obey them. Now that you are the first to subdue us, tell us your request." Renzu was overjoyed. "Then I order you both, go and catch me a longevity Gu." The rules and regulations Gu worked together and captured an 80-year longevity Gu. Renzu was already 100 years old, but after consuming this Gu, the wrinkles on his face vanished and his frail limbs became muscular again. A vibrant aura of youth oozed from him. With a belly flop, he jumped up onto his feet. He ecstatically looked at his body, knowing that he had regained the body of a 20-year-old. "That's all for today, let's go home, grandson." The old man, having completed the story, finished his wine as well. "Grandpa, continued telling me, what happens to Renzu after?" The grandson was unyielding as he shook his grandfather's arm. "Let's go, I'll tell you when there's another chance." The old man wore his straw hat and jacket, then gave his grandson another set that was a smaller size. The two walked out of the inn, stepping into the rain and slowly vanishing from sight. Rules and regulations. Fang Yuan's gaze was dark as he twirled his wine cup, looking at the liquor in his cup. His heart was touched. Renzu's legend was widespread throughout this world and there were almost no people who did not know of him. Fang Yuan had naturally heard of him too. But no matter if it was a legend or a story, it was dependent on the knowledge of the reader. The grandfather and grandson earlier merely treated it as a story, but Fang Yuan could understand the deeper meaning. Just like that Renzu. When he did not know the rules and regulations, he explored in the dark. Sometimes he bumped into things, knocking into others, causing himself to get injured and look like a mess. And at times within a wider area, he got lost and confused, moving without a sense of direction or purpose. This darkness was not purely black or the absence of light. Strength, wisdom and hope could not oppose it. Only when Renzu knew of the rules and regulations and said their names did the darkness dissipate and invite light into Renzu's life. The darkness was the darkness of the rules and regulations and the light was also the light of the rules and regulations. Fang Yuan switched his gaze from his cup and looked outside through the window. He saw that outside the window, the sky was still dark, the greenery abundant and the pelting rain flying by like mist. Close by, the bamboo tall houses were lined up in a row, extending far out. On the road, several people walked, their feet stained with the mud from the rain. Some of them wore grayish-green straw coats, while others carried yellow oiled cloth umbrellas. Fang Yuan concluded, this world's heaven and earth is like a huge chessboard. All life forms are chess pieces, acting in accordance with their rules and regulations. The 4 seasons have their own rules and regulations, rotating between spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The flow of water has its own rules and regulations, flowing from high ground to low ground. Hot air has its own rules and regulations, floating upwards. Humans naturally also have their own rules and regulations. Everybody has their own standpoints, desires, and principles. For example, in the Guu village, the servants' lives are cheap while their masters' lives are noble. This is a part of rules and regulations. Because of this, Shenqi, who wants to get close to the rich and affluent, is doing her best to try and escape her servant status. Gao Wan tried all means and methods to please his master, using their authorities for himself. As for uncle and aunt, they gave in to greed, wanting to hoard my parents' inheritance. The academy elder wants to nurture Gu masters to maintain his position in the academy. Everyone has their own rules and regulations, every profession has its own rules and regulations, and every society and group also have their own rules and regulations. Only by understanding the rules and regulations can we see the situation clearly from the side. Gone with the darkness and embrace the light, moving around the rules with much to spare. Fang Yuan thought about his own situation, his heart already clear. To the Mo family's head Guu Mo Chen, it is to protect his family branch's prosperity and benefits. Mo Yan found trouble with me and that would be considered spoiling the rules, so for the sake of his family honor, he will not do anything to me. In fact, he might even compensate me. Actually, the Mo family has great influence, so if they risk their reputation and are bent on punishing me, there is nothing I can do to resist them. However, Guu Mo Chen is afraid. He is not afraid of himself breaking the rules, but he is afraid that others will follow in his footsteps. In a junior's scuffle, if the elders interfere, it would aggravate the situation. If it involved the higher-ups, it'd pose a threat to the entire mountain village. Guu Mo Chen's fear lied here. What if in future conflicts, others laid their hands on his grandson Guu Mo Bei? In his entire family line there's only one male, so what would happen if he died? This kind of fear, maybe he doesn't realize it himself. He is only subconsciously protecting the rules. Fang Yuan's eyes were clear as he had the perfect grasp and understanding of the matter from start till the end. Gao Wan's surname was not Guu. Instead, he was an outsider, a servant. The master executing a servant was nothing to be alarmed about. In this world, it was normal. In the case of Fang Yuan killing Gao Wan's death was not crucial. The crucial part was his master, the Mo family behind him. However, Guu Mo Chen should be able to understand my intention of compromise and threat from the time I sent a box of a minced corpse to them. This is also what I want him to think. If I'm not wrong, the Mo family will not pursue Gao Wan's death. Of course, if I had better talent, and was at least a B grade, the Mo family would feel threatened. Even with the loss of their reputation, they would want to suppress a future threat such as myself. Fang Yuan snickered in his heart. Strength can be relied on, but weakness can also be used as an advantage. Although Fang Yuan was in the game of chess as a pawn, he was clear of the rules and regulations, thus he already had the mentality of a player. An ordinary character would at most be like Guu Mo Chen or the academy elder, also knowing their own rules and regulations but unsure of their non-expertise. Being like Fang Yuan, who had a clear view of the big picture and was clear of rules and regulations, was extremely difficult. To understand rules and regulations, one has to be like Ren Zhu, stumbling around in the dark and wandering about aimlessly. At this point, strength, wisdom, and hope would be useless. One must spend a lot of time going through it themselves and gaining the experience. For Ren Zhu to be able to say out the names of the rules and regulations this was after spending time. Under the threat of death, he had tried countless of times. Fang Yuan was an expert in rules and regulations due to his 500 years of experience in from past life. After his rebirth, he believed that he could create a brilliant future. Not because of the Spring and Autumn Cicada, not because he knew many secret troves and treasures, not because he knew what the future held, but because of the 500 years of experience that he had gained as a person. Just like how Ren Zhu controlled the rules and regulations Gu and was able to easily capture all the Gu in the world. And Fang Yuan was so familiar with rules and regulations, thus he was able to look down upon the world and see through its truths and lies. Being meticulous and precise, or getting right to the heart of the matter. I proudly laugh as I stand on top of the world, coldly looking at the people in the world who behaved like pawns, obeying their respective rules and regulations, living their lives in a straightforward manner. The rules and regulations of the darkness is darkness, and the rules and regulations of the light is light. But the reborn demon had stepped foot under the path of light. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 38. Next. Chapter 39. Chapter 39. Toad Caravan Merchant. The month of May was a transition between spring and summer. The fragrance of flowers filled the air, the huge mountains evergreen, and the sunlight began to gradually release its ardent side. Under the clear azure skies, the white clouds drifted like cotton. On Qingmao Mountain, the bamboo forest was straight like spears as always, pointing towards the blue sky. Weeds grew wildly everywhere, and unknown varieties of wild flowers dotted the grass thicket. As the light breeze blew, the wild grass moved to and fro, the heavy fragrance of flower pollen and the smell of green grass assailing visitors. Halfway up the mountain was a huge number of terraced fields. Layer by layer, step by step, the soft green wheat sprouts were planted down. From afar, it looked like a verdant green sea. On the terraced fields were numerous farmers busily working away. There were some farmers cleaning the canal for the channeling of water to irrigate the fields, while some farmers were rolling up their trousers, standing in the fields and planting sprouts. These people were naturally all mortal outsiders, as the Guu clansmen would never have do these lowly jobs. Ring, ring. The sound of camel bells could be faintly heard in the spring breeze. The farmers straightened their bodies as they headed down the mountain, only to see a caravan moving like a colorful worm from the mountain's side, slowly showing its head. It's the merchant caravan. Yes, it's already May, it is about time for the caravan to come. The adults caught on the situation at once, and the children stopped playing with the water and clay in their hands. Together, they energetically approached the caravan. The southern borders had 100,000 mountains, Qingmao Mountain was just one of them. On every mountain, there were villages after villages, which were maintained by everyone through their blood relationships and kinships. In between the mountains, the forests were deep and ominous, the cliffs steep and full of the dangerous falling rocks. Additionally, in the complex surroundings of the forest dwelled a large number of ferocious beasts and peculiar Guu worms. Mortals could not pass through at all. It was difficult to get past these obstacles alone, one had to at least be a rank 3 Guu master. Because of the poor economy, trading was difficult. Thus, the most important form of trading was through the caravan merchants. Only by organizing a merchant group in such a large scale could Guu masters come together with the power to help each other, conquering the difficulties in the traveling routes and traversing from one mountain to another. The merchant caravan's arrival was like a bowl of boiling water that poured into the peaceful and serene Qingmao Mountain. All these past years they would come in April, but this year they only arrived in May. At least they're here now. The owner of the inn let out a deep breath upon hearing the news. The inn's business was poor in the other months, so only when the caravan came could he earn enough profit to last the year. At the same time, there was some green bamboo wine within his storage that he could sell to the caravan merchants. Besides the inn, the business at the tavern would also boom as a result. The caravan merchants entered the Guu mountain village one by one, led by a treasure brass toad. This toad was 2.5 meters tall, its entire body orange-yellow in color. The back of the toad was thick and full of warts and knots. It was like the lumps of bronze nails on ancient city gates. On the treasure brass toad's back, thick ropes were tied around plenty of goods. At a glance, it seemed like the toad was carrying a giant backpack. A middle-aged man with a circular face full of pockmarks sat cross-legged atop the toad. He was fat and had a large belly. Both of his eyes formed into slits when smiling. He cupped his fists as he greeted the surrounding Guu villagers. This man's name was Fu of the Jia clan. His cultivation was at rank 4 and he was the leader of the merchant caravan this time. The treasure toad hopped slightly as it moved forward, but Jia Fu, who was sitting on its head, was stable and steady. When the toad hopped, his height would level with the windows on the second floor of a building. Even when he was back on the ground, he was at a height greater than the first level of the bamboo buildings. The originally spacious streets were suddenly rather packed and narrow. The treasure brass toad was like a beast that intruded into the midst of a great number of bamboo houses. After the treasure toad was a huge fat worm. It had 2 eyes that were similar to multicolored glass windows, the colors bright and gorgeous. The worm was 15 meters long, its body shape resembling a silkworm. However, the surface of the worm was covered in a thick layer of black porcelain-like leather armor. On the armor was another abundant pile of goods and merchandise, a hemp rope tied around it. In between the gaps and intervals of the goods, GU masters sat one by one, some old and some young. There were also mortals who were robust and sturdy martial warriors, slowly moving forward on the ground. Following after a fat black beetle. After the fat beetle, there were ostriches with brightly colored feathers, hairy mountain spiders, winged snakes with 2 pairs of feathered wings and so on. However, these were in small numbers, most of the creatures were toads. These toads were all similar to the treasure brass toad, but they were smaller in size and had the build of cows and horses. The toads were carrying merchandise and people, their bellies bulging as they hopped forward. The merchant caravan wound deep into the village. Children on the road would look on curiously with wide eyes, calling out in joy or exclaiming in surprise. The windows on the second stories opened one after another, the mountain villagers observing the merchants from a short distance. Some had eyes that flashed with fear and some others waved their hands to express a warm welcome. "Old brother Ja, you came a little late this year, you must have had a hard journey." Approaching with the identity of a clan head, Gu Bo came out himself to greet the leader of this year's merchant caravan. As Ja Fu had the status of a rank 4 Gu master, if a rank 3 elder were to be in charge of receiving him, it would be undoubtedly be seen as a kind of negligence and scorn. Ja Fu cupped his fists and sighed, this year's road was rather unfavorable. On the way we bumped into a group of secluded blood bats and we lost quite a few good men. Then on Jubai Mountain we ran into a mountain fog, and we didn't dare to continue traveling at all. So we were delayed for quite a lot of time, and caused Brother Gu to wait for quite a while. As they spoke, their tones were very polite. The Gu village needed the merchant caravans every year to come and trade, and the merchant caravan also needed business to make money. Ha ha ha, it's good enough that you are able to come. Please, the clan has prepared food and wine, let me host a welcoming dinner for you, old brother. Gu Bo stretched out his hand and said invitingly. Clan head is polite, too polite. Ja Fu was flattered. The merchant caravan arrived at the boundaries of the Qingmao Mountain in the early morning, and by afternoon they were stationed in the Gu village. When it was dusk, the surroundings of the village had formed into a widespread area of temporary shops and stores. All kinds of red, blue, yellow and green lofty tents were built and every inch between the tents was squeezed with numerous little street stalls. The night was descending, yet it was still brightly lit in the area. An endless stream of pedestrians spilled into the area from the village. There were mortals as well as Gu masters. The little children hopped around in high spirits, and the adults showed an expression of joy akin to celebrating a festival. Fang Yuan moved along with the crowd, walking alone. The crowd was bustling with activity, groups of people either surrounding the stalls or endlessly pouring in and out of the entrance of the tents. The surroundings were filled with the shouts of merchants hawking their wares. Come, come, take a look. Top-notch blue sea cloud tea brick, drinking this tea makes one as cheerful as a fairy. Even if it's not a person drinking, it can be used for feeding and raising TGU, it is a cheaply priced item for its value. One piece only costs 5 primeval stones. Brute force longhorn beetle GU, a GU master who uses this GU will be able to burst out with the strength of a cow. You can walk away, but don't regret it. Intimate grass, high quality intimate grass. Everyone look at this quality, it's as fresh as if a newly picked one. One caddy for 2 pieces of primeval stones, very cheap price. As Fang Yuan heard this, his footsteps paused slightly, then he followed the sound and walked over. He saw an ostrich pulling a handcart with 2 wheels. On the handcart was a heap of pastel green herbs. Every blade of grass was a meter in length, slender and long. Their average width was around that of a fingernail. On some of the pointed tips of the grass grew red heart-shaped flower buds. The intimate grass was one of a GU worm supplementary food type. Its worth was stemmed from the fact that it could be used to pair up with a few other foods to feed a GU worm. For example, Fang Yuan needed to give 2 pieces of flower petals every meal to the moonlight GU when feeding it. If he mixed in a blade of intimate grass, the moonlight GU would be full just from eating 1 petal. The intimate grass only costs 2 pieces of primeval stones per caddy, while the moon orchid petal cost a primeval stone for every 10 pieces. With a simple calculation, one would know that mixing the intimate grass in to feed the GU would be more cost-effective. Half a month ago, because I used the Moonlight GU in the academy to kill Gao Wan, I was fined 30 primeval stones. However, the Mo family paid me 30 primeval stones later as compensation, so I didn't really take any losses. In recent days I have robbed twice, my total number of stones amounts to 118. However, recently I continuously spent essence to refine middle stage primeval essence and nurture the 4 walls of my aperture, and I would use up 3 pieces of stones every day. Adding on the costs of feeding GU, my own daily expenses and successively buying green bamboo wine, I have 98 pieces at hand right now. Ever since Fang Yuan killed a person, the cruel and callous image had deeply rooted itself into the hearts of the students, and for a time no one dared to challenge him. This led to his plundering becoming much easier, as every time only a very small number would dare to resist. Fang Yuan calculated in his heart. Then he moved his line of sight and continued walking deeper into the heart of the setup of temporary stores. The intimate grass stall was surrounded by a group of people. They were all either GU masters or students, holding primeval stones in their hands as they shouted and rushed to buy it. It was not that Fang Yuan lacked the money to buy intimate grass, but he had no time. If memory serves, that mudskin toad should be in that store. In my previous life there was a GU master who got it from gambling on the first night, hence he earned big time. I must hurry, I cannot lose a great deal through trying to save a little. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 39. Next. Chapter 40. Chapter 40. Toad GU slumbering within the purple gold rock. The further one walked, the more flourishing and prosperous it was. Small street vendors lessened while large tents increased in number. There were all sorts of large tents to be seen, red, blue, green, yellow, in different shapes and sizes, several being a cylindrical shape. Some erected 2-door pillars at the entrance of their tents, while others hung large red lanterns instead. Inside, some tents had vibrant lights, whereas others were dim and dark. Fang Yuan observed his surroundings as he walked, finally stopping near a gray-colored tent. "It's here," he evaluated while looking at the tent. It had 2 pillars at the entrance, and there were carvings on the pillars, 2 lines of antithetical couplet 1. The left side wrote, "Small display of courage, obtain good fortune during the 4 seasons." The right side wrote, "Large display of skills, obtain good prosperity in all 4 directions." In the middle there was still another line, "Luck changes with time." That's right, this is a gambling den. This gambling den took around 1 mu of land, it was considered a large-sized tent. Fang Yuan walked inside. Inside of the tent, there was 3 rows of counters on a side. On the counter were pieces of amber or fossils. Some were as big as a palm, others were as big as a face. There were also others which were even bigger, those were as tall as a person. It obviously could not fit on the counter, thus it was directly placed on the ground. Different from the other tent shops, it was silent in here. Several GU masters stood before the counters, some meticulously observing rocks on the display counter while others took the fossils and rubbed it in their hand to get a feel of it. There were some that were discussing quietly with their companions, and some were discussing the price with their shop clerks. But no matter what they discussed, they spoke softly, doing their best not to disturb others. This was a rock gambling den. In the GU world, there were all types of GU, coming with different shapes and sizes and all sorts of effects. Gooworms have their respective food to consume. Without food, they can only last a short amount of time before dying. But nature, towards lifeforms, was both uncaring and benevolent. If they lacked food, the GU worms still have a chance of survival. That was to hibernate, undergoing self-sealing. For example, if the Moonlight GU did not have moon orchid petals to consume, it may undergo self-sealing. It will try to maximize the conservation of its strength, like winter hibernation, falling into a deep slumber. At this time, not only would the blue glow on its body dissipate, it would also turn from a transparent crystal state into a gray rock, covered in a layer of rock shell. Eventually, the rock crust will get thicker and turn into a boulder. Or for example the liquor worm, if it underwent self-sealing, it would form a white cocoon around it, curling its body and falling into a deep sleep within the cocoon. Of course this situation of sealing and hibernating may not happen to every GU worm. It has a small chance of occurrence, and in most cases, the GU worm will not fall into hibernation but instead starve to death. Only a small number of GU worms may, under specific situations, undergo self-sealing. A few GU masters who accidentally obtained these sealed GU worms' rocks or cocoons would awaken the gooworms that were slumbering within. Thus they would have a stroke of fortune. Some of the GU masters became successful due to this, it being a turning point in their lives. These situations happen frequently in the Goomaster world, often being fake or real rumors, giving people hopes and dreams. The source of the idea behind this rock gambling den originated from these rumors. Of course, these rocks all looked alike on the outside. Only after opening them can one determine if there really is a GU worm hidden inside. In a small-sized rock gambling den like this, 9 out of 10 rocks are solid core, having no GU worms inside. Even if there are GU worms inside the rock, they may not be living worms, most of them are dead GU. But once someone hits the jackpot of a live GU, under most situations, one would be able to earn a huge fortune. If the gooworm is a rare species, they either become a successful person in life or get murdered and robbed of their fortune. Fang Yuan was clear about this in his heart, being very familiar with the situation beyond these doors. In his past life, he had participated in a merchant caravan before, being a clerk in the rock gambling den. Some time later, he even operated his own rock gambling den, even larger than this one. It was a medium-sized rock gambling den. He managed to con some gamblers, and also misjudged at times, allowing other gamblers to win a precious GU worm. Fang Yuan stood at the door for a while, taking a glance around him, before slowly walking to the counter on the left side. Behind the counter, there was a shop assistant every few meters, both males and females. On their waist hung a green-colored belt, showing that they were not ordinary people but rank 1 GU masters. Most were initial stages, while a selected few were middle stages. Seeing Fang Yuan before a counter, a female GU master who was nearest by walked towards him and smiled, softly saying, "Young master, what GU worm do you need? Every rock on this counter is sold at 10 primeval stones each. If this is your first try, just for the sake of it, why don't you go to the right counter? The rocks there are sold at only 5 primeval stones. If you are seeking thrills, you can go to the high-end counter at the middle, the rocks sold there are at 20 primeval stones each." This was an experienced female GU master, having worked at the rock gambling den for quite some time already. She looked at Fang Yuan who entered, and determined that he was a student from his appearance, age and height etc. Those that came to gamble were all GU masters. Students were only considered second-rate GU masters, just starting their cultivation. Because they're often tight on finance due to feeding their GU worms, where would they find the money to come and gamble rocks? Students like this, normally they just came to take a look and to get an eye-opening experience, satisfying their curiosity. Most were only window shoppers, though if some had well-to-do families, they might attempt to buy one to try. But most only bought the cheapest fossil. Thus, the female GU master had no expectations towards how many rocks Fang Yuan could buy. "Let me look around first." Fang Yuan nodded at her expressionlessly, then started to look seriously into the pile. In his memory, it should be at this counter in this particular rock gambling den. But it had been 500 years, it's been too long. Many things were vague to him already, especially when 500 years of memory was a huge capacity, so to be honest Fang Yuan could not remember distinctly. He could only vaguely recall that during this year on the first night the caravan arrived, a lucky bird spent 10 primeval stones to buy a fossil with purple gold luster. After he opened it on the spot, he obtained a mudskin toad. Afterwards this toad GU was bought by another person, thus causing him to earn a small fortune of primeval stones. Fang Yuan frowned after observing for a while. On this counter, fossils with a purple gold glow numbered up to 20. In which rock was there a hidden mudskin toad? Every rock here was sold at 10 primeval stones each. Right now Fang Yuan had 98 primeval stones with him, and he could buy up to a maximum of 9 pieces. But realistically, he could not count like this. In any sort of risk and gamble, one had to consider the consequences. Fang Yuan was no longer a greenhorn, like those gamblers who thought they were blessed by heaven. Those who thought they were blessed by fate were usually those who fell under the mischief of fate itself. I am alone, with no relatives or friends that can help me. I have to save some primeval stones to survive, as well as to buy food for my GU worms. He counted, and under the most basic reservation, he could buy at most 7 pieces of fossils. This rock, the purple gold, is dotted like the stars, but it's flat as a pancake. There's definitely no mudskin toad inside. This piece has striking purple gold color, but it is only fist-sized. If there really is a mudskin toad inside, the rock should be at least 30% larger. This purple gold fossil, well, it's big, but the surface is extremely smooth, while the mudskin toad's skin is supposed to be rough and uneven. This is evidently not the one. Fang Yuan continued to observe and evaluate, using the method of cancellation. When GU worms hibernate after self-sealing, they would form into a natural fossil, being undetectable from most of the world's detection methods. The remaining detecting methods were too rough, and once used, it would instantly kill the GU worm within that is barely alive. Thus, when GU masters choose rocks, they could only rely on their guessing, experience and luck, sometimes relying on a little bit of instinct. Otherwise, this would not be called gambling. Of course, in this wide world, there are countless wonders, and one cannot exclude the fact that a detection method which is extremely gentle exists, allowing a GU master to know if the rock contains a gooworm. Fang Yuan had heard of such rumors in his past life, but after experimenting, found that it was all lies. Fang Yuan assumed privately, if such a method really exists, it has to be a hidden legacy, controlled in the hands of a small number of mysterious people, having no impact on the gambling business. It was still tame around the Qingmao mountain region, but the more one moves east, the more prosperous gambling dens become. At the Bai-Tu-3 mountain region, every family village had its own gambling den. In some large-sized forts, there were even large-sized gambling dens built. The 3 villages that were famous for their rock gambling were Panshi 4 village, Jiu-Mu 5 village and Kangjing 6 village, where there were even mega-sized gambling dens. These 3 mega-sized gambling dens each had 1,000 years of history. Currently, their business was still blooming, with an endless number of gamblers. There had never been a situation of clean sweep by anyone. Currently, the tent that Fang Yuan was in can only be barely qualified as a small-sized gambling den. If it was any other 15-year-old who came, they would definitely be confused by all the different fossils, and even if they chose it, it would be by random guessing. But Fang Yuan was different. Firstly, he already knew a portion of the answer from the start, thus his search range shrunk to less than 30 pieces. Of course, to find that one rock out of these 20-odd pieces was extremely difficult as well. But using his 500 years of experience as backing, with such a rich pool of information, he picked out 6 pieces of purple gold fossils that best fit the criteria after observing for a while. He had an 80% chance of confidence that the mudskin toad was hibernating within one of these 6 fossils. 1. Antithetical couplet. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/antithetical_couplet. 2. Mu 1 mu is 666 2/3 meters squared. 3. Bai-Tu directly means white head. 4. Pan Shi is monolith. 5. Gu mu means ancient grave, and 6. Kang Jing is pale whale. To be honest, most of these mountains will never appear again, so you don't have to remember them. Finished. Reverend Insanity, Chapter 40. Next. Chapter 41.